Chris Farrell on the line from Judicial Watch, Director of Research there. Chris, good morning.
Good morning.
We were just talking here just a little bit ago here on the program about this article that appears on Judicial Watch in an ISIS camp a few miles from Texas, and that according to Mexican authorities and research that you're doing there. I've read this article in part to the audience this morning and gone over some of the facts that it's been confirmed by Mexican Army field grade officers and Mexican federal police inspectors that this ISIS camp, if you will, was discovered here recently. What can you tell us?
That a raid was conducted late Friday night into Saturday morning of last week in a district of Juarez, right across the border from El Paso. The district of Juarez is called Anapra, and in that area, which is heavily dominated by the Juarez cartel and some of their more thuggish enforcement arms, a group called La Linea. In this area of the town, that there was an ISIS operational element, a cell there, that a joint Mexican Army and federal law enforcement officials, task force of the two, went in and moved against that operational element. That they met limited success. I guess based upon our information, they did not grab everyone in that cell. Others were out away from what was going on there, but they were able to recover some documents, some material, and it was clear to them that these terrorists were using that area as a safe haven to stage and prepare operations against the United States. And specifically, what's right across the border in El Paso, of course, is Fort Bliss, which is home of the Army's 1st Armored Division, a huge sprawling complex, as well as White Sands Missile Range up in Las Cruces, about 45 miles away.
Okay. I mean, this is pretty unsettling, to say the least. I mean, you're putting terrorists in our back door, and you're putting it at the feet of the Obama administration for the lax rules at the border, the lax control of implementing serious command and control at the border, and allowing, you're saying, potentially Islamic terrorists right through the door.
Exactly. And, I mean, no one should be surprised by this. If you just look at the headlines over the last few months, how many folks are picked up in places like Brooklyn and outside of Fort Riley, Kansas. And, we have terrorists operating in the United States now. The fact that they're on our border in what amounts to a safe haven, a staging area for them where they have free access into and out of the country, no one should be surprised by that. It makes perfect sense. These folks are terrorists, but they're not idiots. I mean, they understand where they can get away with stuff, where there's already conditions and circumstances that support enormous amounts of human smuggling and human trafficking and drug smuggling. So why not use that as a means of entry to the United States?
So what do we do about it? I mean, if this is true, this should be the single most important story that we talk about in this country today. It won't happen. How do you get the attention of somebody? I mean, is it going to take an attack at Fort Bliss? Is it going to take an attack at an American military installation, or an attack at a mall in suburban America? What's it going to take? It
may take that, because this information, and again, this comes from a Mexican Army field grade officer and a police inspector, a federal police inspector. These are sources that we have developed and cultivated over years, and they're very valuable, very sensitive reporting network to us. But these facts, this reporting, runs 180 degrees counter to what the Obama administration is advancing when it comes to border security, immigration, etc. So you can't have both at the same time. You can't have vulnerability and potential terrorist activity on our doorstep, and at the same time swing open the doors and tell the world, "Come on in." And that's the tension. That's the friction between the position that the administration has and the threat that's posed obviously and immediately to us.
And this is an immediate threat. This is so close. This is it's unnerving, to say the least. We're on the line with Chris Farrell, Director of Research for Judicial Watch, discussing the discovery of an ISIS training camp 8 miles from El Paso, Texas, and the notion that coyotes, the folks that run illegals over the border, have been running illegal Islamic terrorists over the border to places like Sunland Park, New Mexico, and Fort Hancock, Texas, and elsewhere. What do we do, Chris?
Well, I think it's time for the certainly Homeland Security and the FBI to stop their string of denials. We had a similarly disturbing report last August. Homeland Security and the FBI spent most of their time trying to knock down the story instead of trying to run down leads and try to figure out what's really going on. Then about 8 weeks later, Homeland Security very quietly ended up essentially adopting and endorsing all the points in our August report. It took them to October to do it. But it's politically embarrassing to them, to the administration, and so there's enormous pressure placed on senior law enforcement officers to deny or to muddle or to just kind of go, well, we don't see that. While I can tell you that I got phone calls yesterday from other folks in the region, both federal and other task force commanders, asking me, hey, listen, what you wrote rings true. It lines up with what we've been looking at. If you have more information, we'd sure like to have it. So the local people on the ground know it's real. But the folks, the public affairs officers sitting in offices in Washington, D.C., are so politicized, all they're worried about is knocking down stories that they think are awkward or inconvenient.
Chris, we only have about 20 seconds here, maybe not even quite that. When will we see more on this on the Judicial Watch website? When will more information be coming out?
As it develops, I'm looking for more information in the next couple of weeks.
Chris, greatly appreciate it. Chris Farrell, Director of Research, Judicial Watch. Thanks for coming on and joining us in this conversation.